Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Excuse me. I hope everyone is having a good weekend. I hope you had a great week. I'm dealing with sinuses and allergies, but as they say, the show must go on. So I hope you'll bear with me, and I will try not to cough all the way through. But anyway, we're going to move right on to today's show. The title of today's show is The Waiting Game, and the topic is traditional versus self-publishing, the pros and cons. All right. So for most authors, your focus is to write, rewrite, and prep before the book goes to editing. And during this time, or in most cases, you're already considering how your project will be published. And if you're not thinking about that, you should be, because that's very important. You know, choices are always great. And I mean, who wants a limited menu? I mean, you don't go to a fast food restaurant and the only thing that they have on there is maybe, hamburgers, unless that's what they specialize in. But most people like variety. So you frequent places that will give you that. Well, the same applies to book publishing. Okay, I know every author wants their work published on a grand scale. But let's be real. Traditional publishing is not always available for all authors. Not because they are unworthy, but because the criteria bar is set to such high levels. Now, don't despair. While traditionally publishing might be your goal, self-publishing is no less worthy for consideration, especially when the market is saturated with new authors, whether traditionally published or independent. With self-publishing, you have no intermediary or forces. The author makes all the decisions based on many factors, and usually the same factors that are decided upon by traditional publishers. Now, what's better than that? Plus, you get to keep all the profits and maintain the rights to your work. So, that is nothing to turn your nose up at. That's a good thing. All right. So now with any investments, some level of risk is involved, in which case you should do your homework and find out everything you need to know about this business, because it's more than just writing, wanting to be an author. If you're going to, whether you're going to self-publish or if you're going to go the traditional route, you still need to know everything that is involved. So you need to do your homework. You need to go out there and research. And I tell you, so much good advice that's out there on the net. So take some time and research and educate yourself on what you want to do. And like I said, the pros and cons of going traditional or doing self-publishing. And next, you need to make a solid plan and decisions about or if you were like the CEO of your own business, because you are, if you're going to be an independent publisher, simply because the ball is in your court, it doesn't mean the same rules don't apply. And what I mean by this is that even though you are doing the self-publishing route, all the standards are still there. So that means editing, making it look professional as possible, the cover, the layout, formatting, all of this stuff is very important, because nobody wants to pick up a book and it looks like a third grader, wrote it, published it, whatever. You want to make sure that your book is like polished almost to perfection. Excuse me while I cough. Sorry about that. Now, trust me, these rules, they mean so much because they do apply. And just like I said, the standards for traditional and self-published are the same. One more moment. However, the waiting game associated with traditional publishers can have the same results as a coin toss. Will they or won't they? Self-publishing removes that wait. Meaning, you have to go through all the steps, all the process. But, excuse me, the waiting game of submitting your work to different publishers, you don't have to do that. Because when you self-publish, you're doing it on your own time, on your own speed, and you don't have to wait for someone to tell you yay or nay. If they're going to accept your work, if they want to publish it, if they want to work with you, whatever. With self-publishing, you do it all, but it takes away that waiting game. Especially now with market publishers such as KDP, Barnes and Noble, and other self-publishing venues out there to help fulfill your publishing dreams. Now, there are a few pros to traditional publishing, such as bragging rights, and everybody likes that, right? Okay, more than that, but traditional published with the right publisher is a wonderful achievement. And honestly, it's the dream of every writer. I mean, who doesn't want their work picked up by a well-known publisher, because that is, it's like your foot in the door. It's like taking an entry-level position in a company, knowing that you have potential for growth. So, and with traditional publishing, doors of opportunity, they open on a grander scale. And let's face it, it looks great on a writer's resume to have accomplished many never achieved. However, on the same token, you're more likely to have more disappointments than triumphs associated with traditional publishers. And why not? After all, they take the risk based on your work. Now, I can't blame them for being choosy. Besides, it just makes good business sense to want a return on your investment. If you don't take the time to invest in yourself, if you're self-publishing, your readers will see that. So you want to project an image that you care about your work, you care about what you do, you care about the readers that are buying your work. You want to make sure that book is in tip-top shape before you put it out there. Now, not to say that these standards don't apply to independent authors, because they do. The only difference is that you're investing in yourself. And the other excellent advantage is that there is no wait associated with acceptance. You're in. So in all things, weigh your options, decide the pros and cons of what will work best for you. And in the end, we all are shooting for the same goal. All right, folks. So this is an abbreviated show. As you can tell, I'm very stuffy in the head, but like I said, it's sinuses and allergies, and I've medicated, and I sound worse than how I feel, but still, I try not to cough too much. But sometimes it's just impossible not to do that. But anyway, before I let you go, I want to make sure that I give you these URLs so you can stay in contact with the show. And of course, the first one is to Spreaker, and it is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian E. Moore. You can find me on all social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you could just look me up by my name, author Vivian E. Moore. And also, if you want to go to my website, that is at https://authorvivianemore.com. And also, if you follow my blog, that is at https://vivianemore.blogspot.com. And if you missed today's live show, don't despair, because the show is recorded, each episode. And of course, you can find them on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and Podchaser, also YouTube, and SoundCloud. So there you go. And just remember, there are pros and cons associated with everything. And, whether it's traditional or self-publishing, you want to make sure that you make a list so you know what you're up against before you start. But in the end, if you don't mind the waiting game, then by all means go through the traditional route, submit your work to the different publishers and things like that, and just to be fair about it, with traditional publishers, there are a fair amount of publishing companies out there that are now, open to independent authors. You don't have to have an agent to submit your work to them. So, I think that they have seen, they've seen the light where self-published authors are concerned, because, now they have competition with self-publishers, in the game. So a lot of people, they still want that traditional bragging rights, but with self-publishing, it's sort of, you don't have to go through the headache, the hassle of submitting your work to traditional publishers. But if you want to, you can also submit to traditional while self-publishing at the same time, because a lot of these traditional publishers still accept your work. They will accept your work, even if it is self-published, and even if you have published your work, they will republish it, under their brand. So, that's a win-win. You can't lose with that. But at the same time, with traditional publishers, even with these traditional publishing companies opening their doors to self-published authors, you still have to go through, through the hoops and things like that, because the information that they ask for is very detailed, and and they size you up, by the your synopsis and all of those things, so they can see what you're made of just by reading your synopsis. So you need to make sure that you bring your A game if you're gonna submit to a traditional publisher. You want to make sure that everything is in order before you do that. And and just keep in mind, like I said, options are always good. And you need to always be open to them. You don't have to accept the first thing that comes along. And with self-publishing, it leaves the door open for many opportunities. As far as having options, because you do. And don't worry about not being able to sell your work at brick and mortar stores, because that has also gone away. Places like Barnes and Noble, they do self-publishing now, so you can publish straight through Barnes and Noble, and that is a brick and mortar store. And you can also have ebooks and in paperback and hardcover too, published straight through Barnes and Noble. And then there are other venues out there as well, if you want to go the traditional publishing route. But like I said, just make sure everything is up to par. Make sure you've had your work edited. Make sure everything is right. And I know that it excites you to know that, especially if this is your first book, it excites you to know that that your work is going out there. But also remember, that work is like your calling card, because it's a reflection of you. And if it don't meet the standards, trust me, those reviews will burn. They will definitely burn. All right, folks. So that's all I have for you today. And tomorrow's worship day. So I hope you're planning on going to Sunday service. I hope you're planning on taking some family members, some friends, some neighbors, and by all means, take some children, and tell someone that you love them, because tomorrow is not always promised. Today may be the only chance you get to say that. So I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.